Welcome to this week's spiritual journey. This week we have Craig Taylor, who is a geobiologist based on EMF assessments in the home. So welcome, Craig.
Hi there, Lindsay. Hope you're well.
I am, thank you.
And I'd just like to thank you again for today for inviting me along. It's much appreciated.
Oh, you're welcome. So normally in the spiritual journey, we talk about very much sort of like spiritual stuff like spirit guides and mediumship, etc. But I felt as if it was really needed to talk a little bit about the environment as well, and the impact that our home environment has on us as physical human beings. So I remember when we first met a couple of years ago, your story I just found so fascinating about how you got into this. So do you want to tell us what happened with you, Craig?
Wow, yeah, it was a journey. Yeah, back in 2014 it was now. I started to feel the rumblings of some symptoms. I would be working, I'd go, after work I'd want to go to the gym, I'd want to go to the gym and exercise, but I just had no energy. I'd go to I'd sit in the sauna, and that'd be my exercise, just to sweat and try and get toxins out of my body because something just didn't feel right. But yeah, within the fatigue, the poor sleep, the headaches, even at work, I was struggling. I was having to write things down on a pad and take that with me because my memory was just failing me. And yeah, that was start of like late 2014 into 2015. My body literally collapsed. My knees collapsed at work, and I was picked up off the ground. And it was like, wow, what is happening here? Suddenly, like joint pains in my knee. It was like, I was carried back to my desk, and then I had a phone call 15 minutes later because I'd had a meeting. I'd forgotten about the meeting. I'd forgotten all my preparation. I went there and I presented literally from the top of my head that I could remember. And by the side of me, a gentleman slapped my knee, and he said, "Well done there, you presented well." And at that point, my knee just started to shake again, and I couldn't put any weight on it. I was taken to a local A&E outpatients. They couldn't find anything structurally wrong. So it was back to my workplace. They put me in a taxi back to my property, and the taxi driver carried me into my home, sat me on my sofa, said, "Are you going to be okay getting upstairs?" Like, yeah, I'll be fine, Anyway, I shuffled upstairs on my bottom, got to the stairs, lifted myself into my bed, and at that point, when I laid down, suddenly onset of hot fevers, coets, my body was shaking. I went to sort of push myself back in the bed to sort of get myself sort of up onto the pillow, and my knees flexed the wrong way, and I just screamed in pain. I thought, there was something wrong, and this accumulative aspect of all these symptoms just meant, something was really, really seriously going wrong. And at this point, I was starting to become sensitive to light, sound, any smells as well, and it was just something was just seriously not right. We started the investigations with, the knees, but structurally they looked okay. Yes, a few athletic sort of historical injuries and things, but nothing that really looked out of place. But it was then I started looking at these other symptoms and what was, potentially wrong. And one thing at work, which I still carry with my old work, which I carry forward now, was called root cause analysis. So if you have a problem, you define it. What is it, when, how, why? And then you look at what are the potential things that are influencing into that. And then once you've identified the influences, you then take one of them and you work with that to see as to how that's potentially going to work long-term into your, solving your problem. So I guess that's where sort of environment comes into this overall picture. Yeah, I had to look at what other sort of environmental factors were happening. And we did, with friends and families, we sort of started that dialogue just to, with nurses and things we knew outside of that, just having conversations. And we kind of got it down to potentially 6 different things of like autoimmune, of lupus, even Lyme disease came up. And we sort of started doing the researches, and, you start to look at things, well, those symptoms, yeah. They start to fit of like, also suddenly like joint pains, the forgetfulness, memory, fatigue. It was like, you start to, yeah, maybe it could be. So, we followed that along, and I came across a an alternative aspect known as bioresonance in terms of how that looks into your body for frequencies of bacteria, parasites, viruses. And, that was something I had nothing to lose at this point. So yeah, I went and I got the, it's very, it's hard to call it a diagnosis, but everything was there in terms of the bacteria for Babesia, Bartonella, even Escherichia, Borrelia, which is the main sort of thing that's linked with Lyme disease, and that was what came back was you've got Lyme disease.
Wow.
So once we had a sort of formal aspect of healthcare, but it was still, the needs were still the focus. But there was all these other symptoms that were just, basically mean that, I was literally being lifted in and out of bed. My speech was becoming blurred. My sort of remembrance of my family was just, literally just, it became life-changing. Mm. But once I had something to work with, then I looked at, right, let's look at this and do this root cause analysis, and sort of take that a little bit further. So yeah, we continued that and was seeked other advice. I ended up going private after not really getting what I felt was the sort of holistic approach to other aspects, just the focus on the needs. And the private aspect came back with, yes, a positive for Lyme disease. Wow. And they did autonomic testing on my body, which basically, every time I laid down, I would feel like I was literally missing like a heartbeat. And they, diagnosed me with the cardiomyopathy. So, other body systems were seriously being affected with this. And, I fit their panel. And I sought another sort of bioresonance practitioner to, and that again, without knowing any of my history, again sort of confirmed everything, and they said, you have everything that fits for Lyme disease. But yeah, and on top, I ended up with a blood clot the full length of my left leg, which isn't a normal thing. So yeah, the more research I did, then you look at the other aspects of your environment, and through the bioresonance, we got a real understanding of what the potential of environmental factors are, certainly with EMF. In terms of your ability to store frequencies. Body is water and electric, so water holds memory, and so we hold these frequencies. And yeah, we got an understanding that the EMF of what we carry mobile phones, Wi-Fi exposure in the home, or if when we used to go out to the local cafes or local pub, then you're bombarded by this all the time. But yeah, that was sort of one aspect. But also another aspect of the EMF was the geopathic stress, how the actual frequencies of the earth and the distorted aspects of those earth lines, in terms of the grid lines, if they were present in your environment, then this is where ultimately I led into what I do now, is from having the understanding of what was sort of influencing my body, to then sort of take that forward and say, what I was doing for the previous 18 years was not nurturing my body. I was losing aspects of what I believed in and just chasing what I thought was what my body, well, not necessarily what my body, what I thought I wanted. And that ultimately came to the point where I think my body said, I can't actually support you anymore because I'm not, living a life that, one, you fully believe and sort of I wanting to prosper in. So yeah, that was sort of how I sort of got an understanding of the environment aspect.
Sorry to interrupt. So was it the private doctors that made the link between the environmental impact and the EMFs and your body, or was that more research that you'd done around what was going on for you?
I think it was a bit of both, because the environmental aspect of the hospital were looking at a more holistic approach. They were aware of the effects of potential EMFs within your environment, how they can then influence onto the body. The more conventional probably won't accept the extent of what the influence is. But yeah, the more alternative aspect, yes, when you look at the holistic aspect of your environment, then yes, it's very much more looked at. You know, there's you know, in terms of environmental doctors, as a gentleman, you know, am I okay to say names?
Yeah.
Yeah, a gentleman called Dr. Klingard runs this Sophia Institute, looks at very much in terms of autonomic response testing and what influences your body to how you then test against that in a positive or a negative way. And he's basically now, he's one of the top guys. But he says, yeah, everybody should be looking at this in terms of, you know, electromagnetic fields and how it influences the body. Because ultimately, I say we are the classic antenna to absorb and distort the human body. The natural earth runs around 7.83 hertz. You know, the Wi-Fi in the property runs at 2.4 billion hertz.
Wow.
And when we sleep, we want around 2 to 4 hertz for the brain to go into its sleeping phase. But if we have these influences around the body, you know, the frequencies become distorted, and you know, we ultimately hold that frequency. So yeah, mobile phones run around 9 million hertz. So
wow,
yeah, we distort the body just by holding a mobile phone.
Yeah. I suppose as well, because like you said, you know, we are made up of like energy and vibration, etc. And in line with the natural earth, you know, our bodies resonate with that natural earth, don't they? But then when you bring in these modern things, do you know what I mean? When you bring in mobile phones and you're adding things within your home that has a much higher frequency, then that is bound to affect the body, isn't it? Unless you have different ways of protecting yourself and shielding yourself from these EMFs.
Absolutely. We classify the aspects of your mobile phones and your Wi-Fi as non-native electromagnetic fields. They're not natural. You know, we have this beautiful glowing aspect in the sky that gives us positive frequencies and negative frequencies. You know, that is natural. But it's the non-native, man-made, you know, it's man-made,
yeah,
which is not native to the body. And that's the problem. Yeah, you know, it's contested as exactly how sort of dangerous it is. In terms of an X-ray, I think that's given. We know that does the potential damage. Yeah. This is a different range of frequencies that, yeah, makes a non-native aspect that, yeah, it's not natural for the body to be existing in.
So I mean, nearly sorry, I was just going to say nearly every single home has like mobile phones and routers and Wi-Fi. So what can people do as individuals within their home to protect themselves and protect their physical bodies?
Yeah. So the approach that I take, you look at the root cause. What is potentially within that property that's giving you an influence? If we take the Wi-Fi as an example, okay, if the approach I take is if you remove the source, so if you turn the Wi-Fi off, you've lost the influence of that. I personally don't think you need Wi-Fi 24/7 in your property. Because I would recommend possibly, you know, sort of 8 to 10 hours of that should be sleep for true health. So if you have this frequency that's pulsing, and that's part of the problem is these are pulse signals, they're not constant, and it's like literally, you know, pulsing against the skin of your body. But I should say 2.4 billion times per second. So, you know, that's, yeah, I can't demonstrate that. That's just such a phenomenal impact on the body. So yeah, when you're sleeping and you still have this active, it's basically stopping the body from going through that generally regenerative process of sleep, which is why we go there to recover, and then we recover the body. So if we have that when we're sleeping, then yeah, you know, the body never switches off and it's always in an alert state. The body makes melatonin to detoxify the body and to sleep. But every aspect of exposure to electromagnetic field stops that process. So yeah, you know, you never go through that full restorative sleep, and it's all accumulative. It's not bad you start to feel illness. It's accumulative, and this is the problem with these. It may be, you know, depending again on sort of people's immunity aspects or their state of health. You know, other people will be influenced or affected quicker than others will be, but it's that cumulative aspect, and the more that you add, then the bigger the burden comes on your body. So the first approach is to remove. So, you know, through the day, if you need Wi-Fi, turn it on when you need it. You know, turn it back off. That's the simplest aspect. The other aspect would be to basically grab yourself an Ethernet cable.
Oh yeah, remember those from days gone by?
Indeed, yeah. But this, you know, if you take a step back, you can basically plug, as I have, plugged into my computer, plugged into the router, go into the router, cancel your wireless settings, and we have the internet again. So, you know, and you've removed the source. We won't necessarily see any difference. You'll still have the speed, the reliability. But yeah, that's one way of just, you know, quickly just by getting, you know, mine reaches 10 meters back from the office to the routers. So that, you know, that's what I do, just to remove that source. If we can't,
I was just going to ask, what sort of symptoms would people have if they were being affected by really high EMFs in the home?
Oh, right. All I can say is there is no one single system of the body that will not have the potential to be affected. Okay. Let's start with this thing here, the brain. So again, you know, as we said, if we have these frequencies on, it's all the natural frequencies of the brain. The neurotransmitters that, you know, transmit signals across our body, all the, you know, every second of every day our body, you know, is operating. You know, if we start with this, then again the hormonal aspect of how the body balances and regulates itself can be influenced. The frequencies of Wi-Fi and specifically Bluetooth are known to open the blood-brain barrier, so that the sheath of the brain can actually start to be opened, and then we allow toxins into the brain. So again, that can be linked with, you know, memory and the cognitive problems. You know, similar to, I remember I had to write everything down, conversations, you know, just to get by. I'm okay now, I think. But you know, so the brain is one aspect, and you know, one of the big things that I see now, these are actually wired, they're not wireless, but is the classic earbuds that we now see.
Oh yeah, I don't get those. I don't get them.
No.
I think I'm too old for them. I'm just like, I just don't understand.
Yeah, and one of the other aspects we say is distance. We've now brought. And even if I just show you know, by holding my mobile phone, I've got a research paper here that says I'm inducing more voltage into my body that starts to impact on my immune system. But we carry these devices. They've come closer and closer to the body. You know, so that's part of the, you know, so we would always say is distance is part of your protection. The inverse square law says that your exposure reduces with the greater the distance there are. So, but yeah, we carry them in our pockets. You know, we put the earbuds into our ears. I see people now with the mobile phones in their sort of sportswear, and it's directly against the body. Even ladies, you know, in terms of, you know, the thing inside the bra, you know, that's right next to the human tissue.
Yeah, I used to put mine in my bra, and then I remember, I think, reading something. I was like, oh my God, that's actually really dangerous. So I stopped doing it about 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
It's just not good. So in terms of your mobile phones, is there anything?
So yeah,
sorry, is there anything you can buy for your mobile phones to protect you from the EMFs that transmits?
the thing is, I have a bit that basically shows me in terms of when it loads up, it tells me what my body is inducing in terms of microvolts.
Mm-hmm.
So just in my room now, we're running around 30, 40 microvolts. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got something on the back of my phone here that basically says that it balances the sort of impact of radiation.
Mm.
So if I can just show you. So what we now see is 1,000, 2,000, yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Just by having my phone in use, I'm suddenly starting to induce up to 3,000, nearly 4,000 microvolts into my body.
Wow.
So, and that's with this protective aspect on my phone. So it's not doing anything to, we'll just go back to now and we see that we're roughly back to where we were. So when the phone's in use, I am still absorbing the electromagnetic field into the body.
Mm.
I can't test the aspect of what they're doing internally in the body, but I know that I'm absorbing that radiation. So, I haven't found anything yet that I would personally endorse fully to say, stick this on your phone, it will then protect you, because even without the mobile phone, I go out and there's more in terms of things that we need to be aware of as well, in terms of, masts and things like that, which, I can't see how a sticker's suddenly going to give us that full protection against that as well. Is that a cumulative aspect once you step outside? So, yeah, I've got that, but, I use that as a for myself to try and verify, is it doing anything? I can't prove that it's not internally, but I know that I'm still absorbing the frequency. So that's why I say remove the influence, keep it away from my body. And when I use it absolutely to minimal. I've even got an adapter for that, which I can plug into the Ethernet cable as well. So, if I ever use it for like a purpose of like looking for sort of internet aspects or whatever it be, I can control my exposure that way by an adapter into the Ethernet cable. The thing is, it helps for sure. It's we've almost become normalized to the wireless aspect, and but if you just to grab a cable from the drawer, plug it in again, it's taking that little step back to sort of to personally and manually sort of provide that protective aspect where it's wireless aspect. People, that's how we seem to be sort of sold these products now.
So you just talked briefly about the masts and the controversial word that we're not going to say, but you've got a little sign, haven't you? You can hold up. Yeah, so
the magical number and the magical letter.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts on that in terms of how it affects us as physical beings and in terms of our environment?
Yeah, in terms of the aspect of we're now at this 5th generation. We've gone through 1, 2, 3, 4G, where the symptoms of the brain, even the eye, the cataracts, the ears, the tinnitus. Tinnitus is a classic one. It's actually a brain injury that links with the ear. And tinnitus is still one of my sort of weak points. And when I know if I start to get the earring, then there's something within my environment. I can even even with the Wi-Fi in the different properties, I can almost become the antenna myself because of how my body reacts to it. But yeah, speech, fatigue, as we mentioned, those are all the other aspects. And we're now at this level where I've got research papers by the side of me here that literally state, we've got the IEE, aspect of electromagnetic radiation. You know, how safe are we? This goes back to 1971, which is a US naval research. This is all known back in the 40s, 50s, 60s. Electromagnetic fields and the voltage gate calcium channel. That's how these do the damage, is how they influence on the cell. Immune system disturbance, you know, this is class, and this states even just by having a mobile phone in your hand, you're inducing more voltage to damage your immune system. But the big one that I always quote is National Toxicology Report, 10-year study, £13, that basically started then to find the links of the damage that this is really doing to the human body. But these were at frequencies of 2G and 3G. So we know the damages of the biological aspects, and these symptoms were being done at 2G, 3G. 4G is just like, you know, we ramp that signal up even higher. And 5G, we don't necessarily, well, we do ramp the signal up higher, but we also start to come back into the lower aspect of the electromagnetic spectrum as well. So in terms of like electromagnetic, we've got what's classed as the non-ionizing spectrum, which is where we're operating in with these like cell generations. So yeah, you know, radio waves, we're into then microwaves, and then into, as we class as millimeter waves, up to 300 gigahertz. So as we said, Wi-Fi runs at 4 gigahertz. But these studies that were done showed that even at, you know, 900 gigahertz, or which is mobile phone classically runs at, we already know damage. With those generations, the mass that we use as the connective tools, basically they put the signal out into the air, which we then connect to. So, you know, it's always around us. And that's why the home becomes our little haven, where we need to do as much protection as we can. And that's my sort of view. And specifically the bedroom where you go to sleep, that's where you really need to do protection, because when we're out all around us, unfortunately. But problems with 5G is that that has the ability to come on the body or in the home in terms of, you know, it's not necessarily all about you being able to be able to download things quicker. It's not. It's more about supporting what's known as the Internet of Things. So whatever can be connected, they've said will be connected. You know, it's looking at autonomous vehicles, you know, in the future, to support that, to give the line of sight for signals to that. So, you know, if you have a mobile phone that's going to run on a true 5G signal, I don't think it is myself, because if you bring as an energy to that device, the frequencies that are potentially going to be using are going to be too strong, and they can potentially do more harm than good. So yeah, you know, in terms of 5G, it runs on low aspects in terms of things in the home, in terms of you know, even smart meters, you know, so that data can be taken as an automatic data transfer. You know, in terms of if people have smart fridges or smart whatever other devices, Alexas and you know, whatever those are, mobile phones, this 5G can actually have the ability to come in and take that data. So that's the problem. It comes to you rather than it just being in the air, and it comes then closer into the home environment, or when you're out and about, you know, your mobile phone becomes a signal that brings that signal close to you, right onto the body. And the 5G aspect is really becomes more dangerous as we start to go up that scale of the ionizing radiation, because as we then start to go above sort of 6 gigahertz, which then moves us really into the sort of millimeter waves, where they're classed as millimeter waves because that's literally the height of the wave. Because they have that such short wavelength, they need help and assistance within your urbanized area to get to where they need to be. So again, that's going to be through what's known as like small cells to boost that signal. And this is where the potential for street light furniture, anything that's static, even like bus shelters, park benches, you know, that's where you're potentially going to have these antennas to keep the signal boosting to get it to where it wants to be. So that is where it's going to be brought even more into your urban environment.
Right.
So
I wasn't
yeah,
aware of
that's
that.
one of the big ones. Is
Yeah,
yeah,
because
absolutely.
I'd heard about the masts, and then there's obviously rumours about the schools, but I hadn't heard about them potentially going, like you said, on streetlights and needing to have those spaces to allow it to
Yeah,
run. Mm.
absolutely. So yeah, so trees, you know, trees are wonderful. You know, they help us regulate the earth basically. But trees are a bad thing for 5G, because if there's ever rain and the leaves are wet, the water then becomes a source for taking of where that signal needs to get to. And also trees give the infrastructure, as you know, they block the potential signals.
Mm.
So
Ah,
yeah, if you know, trees, you know, with thinking of
so
global climate, you know,
yeah,
yeah,
because again, there's been pictures shared, hasn't there, on Tintin,
yeah,
where people have been chopping down these trees in some of the bigger cities and towns across Europe, where they've just gone in and just like floored them all. So
yeah,
that would make
absolutely.
sense in connection with what you were saying.
Yeah, so you know, I think the last time I was in York, actually, is it the main Parliament Street? Um,
Mm.
again, all the trees. The last thing I sort of remembered before I left York was those trees were different to how I remembered them.
Mm.
Literally all cut back. But yeah, you know, major towns now, you know, yeah, you know, are moving forward with better
Yeah. So,
signs, so we might as well use it.
yeah. So what
But yeah, that's it. It all becomes closer and closer into your urban environment.
I was just going to say, so again, what can we do as physical beings in terms of protecting ourselves from that? Is there anything we can do?
I come from the aspect of protection in the home, and it's where you sleep is the only chance your body really has to rejuvenate and restore itself. Through the day, your body does have an ability to fight. You know, your body is quite clever. You know, it will. We are naturally connected to the earth, so even when we're out and about, we as an antenna, we take in the radiation, but we're quite clever because we want to find the route to earth to ground ourselves. And that's a natural phenomenon
Mm.
within the electricity within your home. So the human body, if it's connected to the earth, will be grounding, and we won't necessarily store as much of that.
Mm.
So what I would say is personally, you know, in the home, yes, we need to do these sort of aspects of, you know, turning off the Wi-Fi's, you know, smart meters. I would strongly recommend that, you know, you don't get a smart meter fitted.
Yeah.
It's not an absolute requirement. You know, it is an agenda to have that aspect for this what we class as the smart grid or the smart city where everything's connected.
Mm.
But yeah, it's not an absolute legal requirement. If you have already, then there are things you can do. You know, because of the sort of contentious aspect of does the non-ionizing really do as much damage as the ionizing aspect, where we know X-rays do.
Mm.
You know, if you have the sort of rumblings of symptoms, and you can sort of state sort of since the date that was installed, there has been deterioration in health. You know, your doctor may be a useful resource to help you in terms of writing letters to state that, you know, it would possibly be advisable, you know, for, you know, this person to seek the removal.
Mm.
Again, it's going to be very hard, because once a company has put that smart meter in, they're kind of loath to take it back out again,
Yeah.
because, you know, they've had a financial incentive for putting that in there.
Mm.
But there is, if you want, the problem is with smart meter tariffs as well. They are now offering you the lower tariffs as well. So it's more economical for you to have a smart meter too. But if you're prepared to, hold off and pay that a little bit more, which I would strongly recommend because you'll end up paying in other ways, is to basically, if you have to look at changing your supplier and basically asking the questions, if you change to them, will they come and put in a single digital meter or an old analog meter that is no longer smart? So again, there is one company I know of who are being a little bit more proactive than others. Can I say?
Yeah, if you want to, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, company called SSE are the ones that I come across are more proactive in actually taking out smart meters, but it's no longer a guarantee. And again, I can no longer guarantee what that sort of communication is going to be like in terms of your experience with customer service of that. But I would certainly start with exploring. It can't do you any harm to start to ask the question of, would you, if I was to change to your tariff, would you help me remove it? So that would be one thing. We said about Wi-Fi, turn it off when it's not needed. Ethernet cable. Anything else? Even computers. The glasses I've got on here now have actually got a blue filter within them. So any screen time that we're using, and again, I read something recent a couple of days ago. It said that people's use of social media and devices has gone up 70% through this lockdown phase.
Believe it.
Whether it be, yeah. So again, children with schoolwork, people working from home. So that's one aspect. So blue light filtering is one of the things that I'd absolutely recommend. I use these clear ones for like computer work. I've got a whole range of them. I shall model them.
Yeah, I've got some as well. I bought some for the kids. Yeah. Mine are like those, yeah. Not exactly.
The yellow ones, they help us in terms of more of a actual blocker. But the yellow aspect, if we're not going outside, gives the body the frequency signal of the sun. So that helps with mood. And my personal favorite ones are then the red ones. And that basically went, well, from sort of 5 o'clock onwards every evening, these are on. So when you're in the home, this is a total block of all blue light. Yeah. And what that means is that ultimately the optical aspect of my eye that takes in light frequency is then going through the suprachiasmatic nucleus to the pineal gland, which is the master control gland, to say that it's actually nighttime. And the hormone, you then switch into making melatonin. But every time you look at a screen, you stop that process of making melatonin for about 2 hours. Your body switched back into a cortisol stress state of it's still daytime. I need to stay awake. When the last thing you want is that. You need to go into that sleeping phase of making the detoxification of melatonin. And that's the best way that you can actually protect yourself is, in the blue light, remove all these gadgets. So I start with that removal and reduction phase. If I've reduced my sort of optical aspect by using these. I haven't removed the source, but I've reduced. Yeah. And if I need to ramp that up a little bit more, then later on in the day, I switch to the red ones. So that's the other aspect. Yeah. But even I say just having my, just using computers. We're not just worried about what's the wireless aspect in the air. Just by I use a laptop and just by having my hands on it, I'm inducing current into my body and voltage. So laptops should never be on your lap because of the magnetic fields and the electric fields from what they induce into your body, and that's it's the magnetic aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. I often sit on the settee and I put it on my lap, because I just think, oh, it's much comfier, but in future I will keep it at a distance from my lap. I put it on my
regulations state it, yeah. The guidelines say it should be at least 8 inches away from your body.
Okay. I will
Again, it's more that aspect of the closer it comes to the body, the greater the influence. So, you know, but even just touching it induces like a voltage into the body. One aspect, you know, one thing I'd also recommend is not to charge the laptop whilst you're using it.
Okay.
Because you're increasing. You know, it's just a little bit. It's a little bit of advice, but honestly, the difference it makes is huge. So just unplug it and charge it when you're not using it, because when you're charging it, you're increasing the voltage or the electric fields of that device. So yeah, just keep everything as far away from the body as possible. Yeah, and just yeah, you know, sitting here now talking to you, I've actually got my feet on an earthing mat. So again, you know, that brings in the negative ions of the earth, which the body is basically grown up with in terms of how it sort of functions. And yeah, what we'll do, we'll see if our rehearsal can be reproduced. So I'm not sure it is, but let's have a look. What's the figure there?
Okay, so it says 54 at the minute.
54. So that's 54 millivolts that's in my body as an electrical current. That's with my feet on the mat. The number we want to be below is when we sleep is 100.
Okay.
So I've lifted my feet off the mat. We're about 1200-ish, yeah? 1600. Yeah. I'm going to put my feet back down because it's dead. And we're back down to
55.
55. So that just demonstrates from 55 millivolts up to say 1200, 1600, just by having my body connected to the earth. It's not the natural earth, it's using the earth pin within the electrical socket. So I'd always recommend you actually test the sockets to make sure the earth is actually properly earthed. But what we've done is we've, you know, by bringing the negative ions to the earth, we've actually reduced the potential storage of that electric field in the body. And as I said, we want to be below 100 when we sleep. Yeah. But when we sleep, we've got the electrical wiring under the floor, in the walls, and around the ceiling as well. So we become encapsulated by electricity.
Is there not some like sort of cages that you can buy to sleep in?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we move into the bedroom, there's aspects of protection. So those are known as like you class them as like sleeping canopies. So again, you know, using fabric as your sort of protective attenuation of these electrical frequency, but also of these high frequency you know, sort of pulse signals, then yes, that will give you a protection. Yes, you know, it gives you protection. It doesn't do the sort of removal aspect, because, you know, ultimately, you know, the biggest sort of external influence is probably going to be a phone mast. You can't remove those aspects. So, you know, if you live near one, then, you know, even within sort of 300 meters, you're still within the sort of danger zone we talk of masts. So yeah, you can, you know, because you can't remove that, you then need to do the reduction aspect. Can you reduce it? Possibly not, because you can't control it. So you then need to move to the protection stage. But yeah, sleeping canopies, but the fabric, you know, fabrics, they will give you protection. The preferred route I like to use with a bedroom is actually called a shielding paint. It gives you a lot more protection.
Shielding paint?
Paint, absolutely. So literally, like, you just paint the walls of your bedroom. We would normally recommend 3 coats to give you the sort of required protection. But what you do is you basically ground that out as well. So you connect ultimately to the earth socket of a plug. And what that does is it basically takes that, it blocks the high frequency signal from penetrating. but it also takes away the electrical field of the electrical cable that's in the wall and the ceiling as well. So it takes away two aspects from using paint. Shielding canopies, some of them can be grounded, so they will give you high frequency, and the electrical field that is induced through the metals that are in there can be earthed as well. But you don't get, personally, you don't get the longevity of protection, and you don't get the level of protection as well. So shielding paints are the preferred route in terms of if you really want to get really good sort of protection in the bedroom. Obviously, windows, you're not going to paint those.
No.
So that's where a fabric, sort of can be used. When you pull the curtains closed, then the fabric on the rear or on a blind or whatever, that will give you some sort of protective aspect of that. So shielding paints would be the preferred protective route if you can't do the reduction and the removal of that influence.
Fabulous. Wow, there's so many like top tips there that I hope people can use. Do you know what I mean? And they can go away and research for themselves, what is going to be best for them. But if they wanted you to come and look at their house or look at their home, is that something that you can do for them?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, the way that I get a true understanding of what their body's been exposed to is by basically coming and measuring. Okay. So my meters will tell me, I have another meter which shows me what's in the air. But the meter I showed earlier where we looked at the microvolts, that allows me to understand what is the influence of the body. And this is where, a professional meter like that gives you a lot more of the actual burden on the body and how is it being, sort of influenced upon. So by understanding what's happening in that environment allows us to then understand what form of protection would sort of be required. Another big aspect that I would like to just the geopathic stress as well. So I mentioned that had a big influence on my sort of potential illness as well, from sleeping in a distorted zone of electromagnetic field where the Earth's field has been distorted, and that's one of the big ones that we find in people's property as well.
So in terms of the land underneath the house.
Yeah. So if you imagine, the Earth has an iron core, and we have a north and a south pole, and that creates the natural electromagnetic field. And what we have are the largest ones, or the largest in terms of what we find are what are known as distorted grids, are the Hartmann and Curry grid lines, basically formed on the Earth's surface. And when they run through your bed, then that again can basically localize potential symptoms. So if there's running, if you have an energy line running through your legs, we may see some form of problem with, so whether it be, sort of muscular or, or a joint, for myself, it was also, it was a water vein where underground water creates an electromagnetic static charge that when you sleep above, it means that your body always has this EMF charge and it cannot go through that restorative process. So if because we can't remove these aspects from the Earth, if we have an understanding, we can potentially go to the reduction aspect. Can we relocate the bed?
I was going to say, because did you not do that for yourself? Did you not move?
I did that to an extent, but I put the protection under my bed that takes the energy and distort and basically pushes that energy away, because all of this energy, some of it is actually positive. We can use frequencies in a positive way, but also in a negative way. So if you think of as you said earlier, we are energy. So we take energy sources and the body responds, but it responds in a negative way to some as well. But by using the positive Earth energy but pushing the rest away means that the body has the ability to regulate itself. And literally that was probably one of the biggest aspects. Once I got an understanding of how the EMFs were influencing me, by protecting the Earth aspect was probably one of the biggest things I felt. Because we mentioned the other symptoms. We started in the brain, the eyes, then you go to the heart in terms of cardiomyopathy, irregular heartbeats, hands in terms of arthritis, joint problems, muscular aspects, skin rashes, joint problems, even digestive systems like celiac. A lot of these aspects of these frequencies are now showing to trigger actual bacteria and viruses in the body. So again, celiac is one of the big ones in terms of certainly using a Wi-Fi frequency. It makes the body actually sensitive to other foodstuffs, because again, like it opens the brain, it opens the gut barrier as well. And toxins get then into the bloodstream that then start this string of autoimmune problems. So yeah, there absolutely is no body system that's exempt from any of this. What I will say is, yeah,
no, you go first.
Children. We as humans, as adults, I remember back 35 years ago, my uncle started with his first mobile phone, literally carried in a suitcase. Now, as we said, it's all come onto the body. People are, children of the age. They even stayed now about 30% of kids around 3-4-year-old have their own mobile phones. As we said earlier, we are antennas. And over that 35 years, we say that the level of EMF wireless aspect has increased by a quintillion times. That's 1 with 18 zeros.
Wow.
But that's now a child's starting point. All these non-native aspects. But, at this age where they haven't developed an immune system, their body is still developing. And we have these non-native fields around them. But also we are about 70% water. And the density of our bones, it helps us as adults, because the bigger bone structure means that they're a lot tougher, whereas a child bone system is not as much developed as well. So ultimately they become even more of an antenna to absorb all of this. If you hold it, there's studies, if you hold a mobile phone, you get a lot more sort of radiation covering the aspect of the brain in a child, because the skull bones just don't give as much protection. But the brain has a higher water content, so they absorb more. So yeah, brain, eyes, aspect. But the three main aspects we're worried about is the brain, heart, and the reproductive system. Because ultimately, when we've had, males have had them in the pockets. There's lots of research to show that infertility is increased with potential use of these devices. Wi-Fi is a classic frequency. Again, research to show ultimately, for sterility and sperm mortality. But yeah, it's the potential areas for the whole body system to be affected, and we don't know who's going to be affected, to what extent, and when. So it literally is remove, reduce, and protect where needed. But yeah, it really is, in my eyes, that aspect of environment. Yes, we spend about 30% of our home life in the bed sleeping. Oh, that would be good, wouldn't it? But when we're at home, we're just, our environment, is, we are around all of these aspects all the time. But I would strongly recommend we get out and see when the sun's shining, get the vitamin D from that. The natural light helps us in terms of balancing the level of artificial light that we come across. Get your feet in the ground and walk barefoot. Obviously assess where you're walking, but even just having your feet static is going to help you. There's some other aspects in terms of the mind. We need to, one thing I use is known as the Wim Hof method.
Hearing a lot about that at the minute. I haven't tried it yet.
Amazing. Just a breathing process to balance the nervous system. Followed then by cold showers. Excellent for
I'm not brave enough for that yet.
You will, if you do the breathing, you will naturally then go into the shower aspect. But again, great for the the nervous system.
Yeah.
Diet, again, yeah, lots of fresh greens. If we can have a really clean diet. There's even evidence to show that even organic and fresh produce actually has a negative ionic balance. So when we take them in, we increase our level of negative ions. As we've become charged with electricity, we come like a battery into a positive state. But yeah, if we get the negative ions, that reduces that positive state. But there's also evidence to show that processed food has got positive ionic balance in the body. So again, it can help in terms of increasing our sort of acidity, where we really want to hold that sort of nice alkalinity level. Exercise is really good for, again, balancing that, balancing the neurotransmitters of the body in terms of the adrenaline aspect. Sleep, that falls hand in hand with what I do. So, try to remain awake and sleep cycles constant, no snoozing. Because once you go back into that phase, your body, we live by what's known as a circadian rhythm. So circa is about, dian is the day. The body is naturally timed. So yeah, try to keep that regular, wake and sleep cycle. Balance your light environment in there. Blackout blinds now that it's becoming sunny, early, to really make that sort of dark environment. Switch off, no gadgets around the bed. No gadgets literally on, in the bedroom at all. Keep them as far away from the body as possible. But yeah, like I said, by making the changes, I know how my body responds. And when I go into environments, if you go to certain places, shopping centers, whatever, when we go back into them, Wi-Fi systems in there, your body becomes the perfect antenna, and I know that, and I can feel it. So it's literally just, having to take that sort of aspect and do as much as you can, just to reduce and remove that exposure from your body.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Craig, for joining me and sharing your tips about the environment and the environmental health and environmental healing. I think it's really interesting to have that other perspective about the external, as well as obviously what's going on for us internally as well. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom with us.
No problem. Absolutely, it's been an honour. And look after yourself. And
thank you. If people want to get in touch, I'll pop all your links as well, and just in the description boxes below, so they can come and check out your website and get in touch with you as well elsewhere.
Much appreciated.
Thank you very much, Craig.
Take care now. Thank you. Bye bye.